1 week off was enough for Brian and I. We were back to talk all things Brickyard, update the betting card with the 2 week break, talk about how that race went. We'll also take a quick preview of Richmond because a lot of books have dropped outright odds, and it's there's some interesting numbers. So Brian and I will tell you what's jumping out to us. But most of our talk is going to be on championship futures. Is there still value at this point? Is there anyone worth taking a shot on? And Brian and I are going to do a championship draft. You get money for to make the championship four, as well as to win the whole damn thing. So we'll talk odds. We'll draft our favorite options at their current prices, and we'll see who comes out ahead. All of that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, 1 week was simply enough. We could not last another week without talking cars. Your sabbatical away from talking cars lasted longer than your trip with a PS5 and College Football 25. But that's another story for another day. How's everything going? Are you ready for Richmond next week? Where's your head at as we kind of go through this break?
Yeah, everything's going great. I am excited to get back talking and back to the grind. As you know, I was chatting with some people on Twitter and such, and my favorite meme last week was of either Matthew McConaughey where he's saying, "I need it," or the Dave Chappelle one where he had the Coke around his mouth and his nose. Because, yeah, I was completely lost this past weekend with no NASCAR going on, no odds to shop, no handicapping available for something I was actually interested in. So I'm excited to get back into this, look at championship numbers, and the fact that books have already dropped Cookout 400 odds. Shouts to them, man, for catering to the NASCAR betting community. There's also already a few numbers that I've bet and that I'm intrigued about. And so, yeah, I think there's some conversation to be had about Richmond that coincides with championship numbers as well, which we're going to get into here in a second.
Yep. So we'll talk championship futures. We'll talk to make the final four odds, and then we'll draft them and see who can make the most money come season's end. But first, let's talk Brickyard. Let's talk about how things went, what we did on DraftKings, what we did at the betting window, and kind of the race in general. So I will pull up the DraftKings. Kyle Larson. Let me pull this out a little bit just so you can see. Okay. So Kyle Larson obviously wins. Both you and I were on the edge of our seat, or maybe not even sitting down by the time the race came to an end, as we were both holding nice numbers on Ryan Blaney.
I didn't sit for the last 20 laps. I paced the condo.
So it was a one heck of a race, but unfortunately Kyle Larson does get there. But we did have him over on DraftKings, which was pretty nice. Frustrating day for Byron. It's been a weird kind of chunk of the season for him. A lot of ups and downs. He's either done really well or like finished near the back. Hasn't been a lot of in between, which is kind of unlike him. Ever since Chris Wormy basically said he's the next Jimmy Johnson, all he does is like consistently impress. He's either been checkers or wreckers, so that's kind of interesting. Chris Buescher was fine. Ross Chastain was okay. Josh Berry underwhelmed. Obviously had his issues, and then Justin Haley, just moves forward, does stuff. He, got a top 20 this time instead of, flirting with the top 10. But
hey, the gift that keeps on giving is Justin Haley, who routinely keeps the tires on it and has good results. And back to Chris Buescher real quick. The fact that the dude had 2 flat tires early in the race after making his way up to like the low teens, and the broadcast mentioned nothing about it. I was beyond frustrated that they weren't even talking about a guy who came into the week as one of the underdog but long shot favorites among bettors to perform really well, and the broadcast made no mention of what was happening with this car.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. The broadcast focuses on their couple options and doesn't really talk about anybody else. And there could be and then there'll be other races where there's competition at the front, and they're talking about a battle for 16th place between
Exactly.
two cars we don't care about. I just want to pull this up real quick. So Justin Haley, 38 points, 32 points, 34 points, 50 points in his last 4 races.
Keep going. Look, it gets even more impressive.
Yeah, obviously there was a
Like,
couple stinkers, but there's a 37th at Iowa. There's a 47 for Enjoy Illinois 300. He's like, and you can see his price kind of moving up. Like he's still, low 6Ks, high 5Ks, and just crushing for anyone who plays them on DraftKings. He's super chalky every week, but less than 20%. I know it's, for a guy who's 6,200, that's a pretty solid number, but it's such an easy click, and it 90% of the time has been working, so I can't complain. Speaking of Mr. Blaney, move forward, had a nice race. Christopher Bell, solid finish, ended up in the top 5. Your guy, once again, was the bridesmaid, never the bride. Kyle Busch is just doing Kyle Busch stuff. Austin Cindric, top 10, baby.
he's so lucked into that, man.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I mean, he's clearly not good, so might as well luck into it. And this was our best lineup by far. So obviously getting almost 70 from Cindric was nice. He was just an easy click. 30. I know he's Austin Cindric, but he was interesting as like a top 10 on the betting window. Couldn't get there. Look at 50% on Tyler Reddick. That's crazy.
That's that's really interesting considering he started on pole and we only had 160 something laps. Like,
how many burners did you have in this contest, Brian?
quite honestly, I didn't even play DK because I was in Vegas, and you can't play DFS there, so I wasn't even able to enter any lineups.
Yeah, so this is our best lineup by far. Hamlin, not a good day for Denny. Keselowski, whatever. Buescher, whatever. As you mentioned, had some issues with tires. How about Bubba? Top 5 effort for his day. Just continues to be pretty solid. We can look, 61 here, 53 the week before, 54 at the Ally 400. Like, sure, there's some stinkers in there, but he's been pretty rock solid at a few tracks and been really impressive. So less than 20%. Eric Jones, whatever. Todd Gilliland, finishes 6th.
Gilly gang, baby.
Yeah, I mean, 6,500
is
half the ownership of Justin Haley.
Yep.
So we're getting to the right names, I think, and finding some potential value. It'll be interesting to see what our builds look like as we head to Richmond. And the cash game streets have been so good. Ryan Stevens was wondering what, tweeting about it when the races. Ryan Stevens was talking about it on Twitter, and like, I was like, cash games are fun. They're the straight bet that is like minus 110 on both sides, but if you hit it, you're really happy. But everyone's obsessed with their 5-leg parlays or their 3-leg to hit a homer parlays because they have huge payouts. But when you want to build that bankroll every week, it really helps. So I've been mixing those in the last couple weeks, and have been having success. So I will be continuing to do that. Speaking of having success, even though we didn't get the Ryan Blaney win, strong week at the betting window, Brian. Obviously, Tyrone Gibbs was kind of an underwhelming car. It was a weird ride for him. His number was kind of like 16, 18, depending on where you looked. And then practice looked not great. But we're like, he's going to qualify better. We're going to get a good number. So we took some 25, 27. I think maybe there was a 30. I don't know if it ever got that long. And then, of course, he qualifies better, and it goes right back to 16. But he was basically a non-factor. Briscoe was sort of in the mix for 5 seconds, but then he was Chase Briscoe and got out of the way. Obviously, Ty Gibbs didn't get there, but we found some winners. So Ty Gibbs over Joey Logano still found a way to get there. Josh Berry, I think, would have beaten KFB if he just stayed on the track, but obviously didn't. Chris Bell got in the top 5 at 22. I was happy to add that. Buescher, like you mentioned, had his woes, so he never really got there.
Yeah.
But Blaney top Ford, that was one of my favorite bets. I think. Well, when we go over to cover yours, I'll pull up the Substack, which we post every week. Chris Bell top Toyota would have gotten there if old Tyler Reddick wasn't there. Christopher Bell top 10 minus 110. That was really nice. Larson over Denny, and then Blaney over Truex, both bing bang boom. You over on your card, Reddick, Toyota to win, but then you hit Gibbs over Logano, Chastain over Busch. You had Larson at 6-1. You're much smarter than I am.
Yeah, he was I think he was a post practice ad possibly for me, just
yeah. He
to
ended
hedge
up
off of the
being
Reddick and the
disgusting.
Toyota camp.
Yeah. So you had Larson, you had Belt top 10, you had Blaney over, and you had Blaney top Ford, and then obviously the Busher and the
Yeah,
Keselowski.
and the Blaney over Truex bet, I had a much larger amount on that personally over at BetMGM in Vegas. I did not understand those odds when they got posted after practice and qualifying, even after the news that Truex had to drop to the rear, do the pass through, like just him having to make his way through the field. The fact that he even got close to Blaney was kind of scary. I didn't think he was going to be able to do that, but in the end, it was the right side still because Blaney had quite possibly the second best car of the day.
So I just want to throw this up real quick. So this is our free Substack. We post it every race day. You can subscribe and get some. We have DraftKings thoughts. Brian, as you can see, writes Justin Haley every week. It's kind of an auto plug at this point, but it works out.
Yeah, and both Kyle and I both wrote Kyle, the good Kyle.
Yeah, Justin. We both went Kyle Larson. We both went Justin Haley, and then we both picked a Christopher. You picked the right one. I picked the wrong one. And then you can see our favorite bets down here. Brian had Blaney over Truex, winner. He had Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski to top 10. I don't think either of those hit. But then I had Bell to top 10 and then Blaney to top Ford. So, crushed it. We obviously put our episodes in there. We put our full betting card so you can see that. So make sure you're checking that every week. It's completely free, and we kind of finish up our thoughts and add any last minute stuff in there to kind of track everything down. But Brian, the last couple of weeks really shows you how this sport can kind of, depending on a couple of weeks, you can really go up and down pretty significantly. So you're in the green 20 over 25 units. I'm in the green over 12 units. We past couple of weeks, a Bowman win, a Blaney win. Just strong performances of head-to-heads, top tens, that kind of stuff. We've both put ourselves in a nice position, so let's not fumble the bag down the stretch.
Yes.
Anything from Brickyard? I was obviously fun to get back to. I think we'll see if it becomes a permanent fixture of the NASCAR schedule, but I definitely enjoyed it. Do you think it was more fun than Blaney's kind of rocking chair win, or holding that ticket as he kind of crosses victory lane or crosses the lane, the green white checker to get the enter victory lane? Was it nice to cash that ticket, or did you have more fun watching Brickyard? Obviously, it was a little more of a stressful end to the race given what we had.
Yeah, I mean, the Brickyard was a lot of fun. I almost feel like it at this point, it's more about the historical context of the race itself and where they're racing, because the actual on-track product, like outside of a couple of cars being Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson, there really wasn't a lot of passing. I mean, and even the last month plus, we haven't seen passing for the lead, which is a huge problem in the sport. And you hear Denny Hamlin talk about it on Actions Detrimental. You heard all the podcasts. You heard people much smarter than us talking about this issue. And, it's definitely something they have to address, because, we give a lot of shit to F1 about, the guy raced it. I coined it #race to turn one, because essentially whoever jumps out to the lead, runs away with the race. But that's really no different in NASCAR. It's just that we have the stage breaks that restack the field, and then they have to do it all over again. But if that wasn't the case right now, you would see whoever was in the lead essentially run away with these races all the time.
Yeah, Larson would be dominating, and I think I think that adding the stage breaks was a big part of why NASCAR put them in, because there was a lot of just like conveyor belts going around, and then all of a sudden the race would be over. Sneaky F1 is kind of actually getting exciting because Mercedes is back in the mix.
Yeah, and
McLaren's back in the mix. Max is complaining.
Let me just add, I don't think there's a coincidence that this started happening immediately after the F1 president guy made some comment about, oh yeah, we don't have a problem with competition. And then all of a sudden, Mercedes starts showing up with much more speed than they had earlier in the year. And McLaren is looking like this team that's now on steroids, while Red Bull is seemingly being throttled with their gas pedals. Like,
Brian, I think your tinfoil hat's on the shelf behind you if you want to go grab it and finish your thoughts.
They're just, that there's no coincidence there. There can't be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there could be, but that's okay.
Yeah, highly unlikely.
But yeah, so overall, strong to this point of the season. We have, a handful of races. Let's actually look at the schedule just so we can check in on where we're at. So we'll go schedule, maybe. Then see if I can do this. There we go. So we're getting close. Yeah, we have four races, and then it's playoff time, which is insane. So
yeah, it's wild.
The break comes at a really good time, and obviously this is probably a good time to talk about championship futures, because this is kind of the last hurrah before the playoffs start, and some of the numbers really start getting squished. And those on the outside looking in, Martin Truex, Bubba Wallace, handful of names. They got Richmond, they have Michigan, they have Daytona, and they have Darlington, and then we're playoff bound, baby. And then we'll see kind of what Atlanta brings to the playoffs. We'll see what Talladega brings to the playoffs. Obviously, there's a few spots. Hopefully, a trip for both of us to Las Vegas Motor Speedway will be in our future, and then we'll be talking championships. November 10th, which is what football will be here. It's all happening, Brian. So this is a good time to dive into the championship future. So with that being said, should we look at some odds, see if we have some thoughts, and go from there?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to look at these championships, because there's one number in particular that I'm all over. Well, there's two.
I'm gonna start with Caesars. I have FanDuel open because their numbers are a little bit better. As always, shop to look for the best number you can get access to. There is better numbers floating around if you're patient, if you're kind of looking around. So depending on where you look, it's some combination of Hamlin, Larson, and Bell as your kind of championship front runners. Over at FanDuel, they're all 450. As you can see, the Caesars, Hamlin, and Larson are 375, where Bell's 450. That really seems to be the clear top three. I guess twofold, Brian. Are you betting any of these guys at their current number? Obviously, you can get 450 or whatever the best in-market number is. Or are they all kind of priced to the point where you'd want to just wait till they're in the final four and bet them at, even if it's plus 250 or 275? I mean, I guess we expect Larson to be there. Hamlin's probably there, but weird stuff happens. So I guess where's your head at there? And then once you get beyond that, I actually just start there. Where are you betting any of these guys at their current number? And do you think there's any potential value?
Yeah, the value on the three favorites, Hamlin, Larson, and Bell, is completely cooked. I don't think you can bet their future numbers right now, knowing the volatility that we're going to see during the playoffs. I mean, all it takes is one of these guys to wreck and have as our buddy Wormy would say, a DFL in one of the early round races, and say they get knocked out in the freaking round of 16 because they can't make up that point difference, because you get a couple of rando winners. So I have no interest in taking these numbers here, especially with what Kyle said. Like, especially if we do get the favorites and they all make the championship four, they're going to actually inflate each other's numbers because you're not going to have one guy that is that much better than everybody else. So I would rather wait on them. We did this a couple of years ago with Joey Logano. Like we grabbed him to win the championship. It was like plus 450 during the weekend in Phoenix. And so I think the same, you could wind up having like a Christopher Bell at 4-1 if it's Larson, Denny, and say Byron or something.
Yeah,
And
he was even like last year he was in the championship 4, and I feel like his number was
he
pretty
was,
ballooned.
I think he was 5-1 at one point, Bell, to win the championship. So
yeah, the only one I would consider is Kyle Larson, just because he's been so dominant, he's so good, and he's so good at Phoenix. But he is the bed shitter for a reason, and he clearly can live up to that name. So I don't fault anybody. I'm not betting the 350 at BetMGM. I'm not betting the 375 at Caesars. But if I can get 4-1 or better, plus 450, like I'm fine with that.
yeah, I guess I don't really hate that. But again, what's really difficult for me is why would I want to bet plus 450 on a championship future to where my money is locked up when I can just take that, whatever I was going to have to wager on that to actually make it pay out and fraction that out over the rest of the races and just bet Larson to win every week. I mean, the dude is the best driver in the sport. Like, he's probably going to win a couple more times, or at least that would be the expectation with how good he is. So you're probably going to make better hay if you just bet him on outright races and then wait until the championship to bet him. Because like, I mean, I grabbed his number at like plus 740 or something months ago at Circa, which to me is not a bad number for the championship favorite. But at plus 450, like now you're getting a little short.
Yeah, but you also have to consider that your money's been sitting for an extra 2 months but you're betting him now.
But
so I will say he's the only one that's even, and I need plus 450 to consider it. Let's talk about that next group because there is potential, depending on where you shop. Obviously, there's some short number with the favorites here, and as you come over here, but you can see like Byron's 6 here, where if you come over to Caesars, he is 850. If you go over to BetMGM, he's 8. So you gotta shop some of these people if you really like them. Of that next group, we'll stay. Let's not get into the Truex, Logano, Bowman. I think they're the next kind of group. So let's talk Elliott, Reddick, Byron, Blaney, as kind of that next 4. Do you have a name from that group that stands out above the rest as this could be value? There's potential here. Go grab it now. I mean, you could take your guy over here because I know that's who you want to say is.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, to me, the best championship future right now is still Tyler Reddick. If them still offering 14-1 on the guy who has been the most consistent driver in the sport over the last 6+ weeks, how do you not bet that? Especially knowing we have a couple of road courses in the playoffs again. I mean, he's the best road course racer in the sport outside of when SVG shows up. So, you're grabbing a number on a guy where he has a real opportunity to not only win the championship this year, but to win the regular season points battle. Like, the guy he's going to have a wonderful starting spot in the playoffs to advance without winning a race and without performing extremely well. And then when we get to Phoenix, it's the track where he was the fastest car according to speed rankings before wrecking with teammate Denny Hamlin. So, for me, he's the only guy that I'm really wanting to bet there. I don't understand why like Chase Elliott is priced so short. I know he's the darling of the sport, and he started the year as the most consistent driver, but he's just kind of been blah. Like, he's kind of like Kevin Harvick was last year. Every week he shows up with a decent car, but he hasn't been a race winning car on a consistent basis. So, I mean, his 5th is good, but he's going up against a Tyler Reddick who has been battling for first. And yeah, he's the bridesmaid every week, but at least he's been there up front.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He makes sense. There's a I mean 14's good. I think 12's fine. I'm fine with either of those. As you mentioned, has been really rock solid. It's just frustrating every week because he's literally right there, and you just need him to make one pass to win a race or make one decision to win a race, and he's just right behind it, not quite getting there. So I don't fault anybody who doesn't want to get in, but he feels like a guy that we get to Phoenix, he's in the championship 4, and you're betting 450 instead of 14 or 10. And you're really like, I should have fired on that number when I had the chance.
Well, and that's so going to Phoenix real quick. If Reddick does make the championship 4, say him and Larson are in there, and say even Ryan Blaney's in there, speaking about inflating each other's odds, add in Denny Hamlin. And I think that, I mean, this is wild to say, but I would venture to guess that Denny would have the longest number of all 4 of those guys at Phoenix, despite what he showed earlier this year, because track history tells us that Hamlin is not good at Phoenix when you compare him to a Ryan Blaney, who is probably the short track, like the shorter flat track master right now in the sport. And then Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick, who have been the two, probably the 1A and 1B as of right now. So, he'd probably be 3-1, 3.5-1, maybe in that race.
Yeah, it's like there's a very real shot that we show up to Phoenix and Hamlin's plus 350, and right now he's 375 on Caesars to win the championship.
Yeah, like he could be this year's Logano in the championship race from 2
It just
years ago.
depends on who gets there with him. If it's if it's Larson and Byron and Reddick, or Larson and Bell and Reddick, or Larson and Bell and Byron, he's going to be long, relative.
I'm just telling you too. If Blaney gets to Phoenix again, like,
yeah. So yeah, I mean,
he's been
so good, but like BetMGM has a 9 on him. 8-1 seems kind of like the market consensus, somewhere between 8 and 9. Are you betting that?
No, it's just so hard to get to these numbers. Like, I know I told you I have the Larson 7 number, but I mean, I trust Larson much more than Blaney, as wild as that sounds. But we saw it last year too in the playoffs. Blaney wrecked at Daytona, or I believe it was Daytona, maybe it was Talladega, and then his odds skyrocketed to like 35 or 50-1 because now he was below the cut line, and then sure enough, like, he wound up winning the championship. So
yeah, and it's funny because I'm looking at our bet tracker from the season and stuff, and neither of us have any Blaney exposure, but he's been so damn good on these shorter, flatter tracks that if he can get to Phoenix in the Final 4, he's got a very good shot. So if you can get, I think, 9 or better, I don't hate anyone who gets there.
But I think that's the conversation with Blaney, though, is that they haven't necessarily shown consistent speed on like 1.5s or even like road courses for that matter, which again, go back to that. We had 2 of those in the playoffs again to warrant him being amongst the favorites currently. Now, if he gets to Phoenix, yes, we all agree, like, he should be amongst maybe the favorite, but getting there is going to be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at the schedule. Like, I think he can
just look at the first round.
Yeah, like Atlanta,
Super Speedway, Watkins Glen, and then Crapshoot.
Yeah, I think you're gonna get, like, I think there's a chance that if you get to here, there might be somebody that presents as a huge value if they have a poor Atlanta, if they wreck out early.
Exactly.
You think they can make some ground up either at Bristol or Watkins Glen. You may be able to get a decent number on them, but then once we get through there, it's a lot more reliable. Kansas is good. Charlotte is good. Obviously a road course. And then Talladega, you never know what you're going to get, but interesting spot. And then we get to the Vegas, Miami, Martinsville feels really safe. And then obviously Phoenix. So, you can see good numbers on drivers that you like to kind of make it through this gauntlet. But if they don't have a shot when they get to Phoenix to beat Kyle Larson or Chris Bell or Ryan Blaney or one of those guys, because maybe all of them don't get there, but probably at least 1 or 2 of those guys are going to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be able to beat them once you get there, even if you don't technically win the race, even if you do what Ryan Blaney did last year and just get second. You have to get there and you have to be competitive. So it's something to think about when you're firing these futures too, because you'll see, as we kind of go into the next group, there is opportunity here. Truex 16, Logano 18. Logano locked in at 18. I know he's been kind of not great, but he's somebody that can show up at a few different types of tracks. He's obviously pretty damn good at Vegas. Then if he wins Vegas, he can get through to Phoenix, and we've seen what happens when he does that. So I don't fault anyone. I don't know if I'm guessing that's probably one of the better numbers. There's a 20 at BetMGM. Like, I don't hate taking a shot. And you also have to look at what's your kind of portfolio looking right now. Have you not really made a bet, or maybe you just have like a Blaney or a Byron or something from earlier in the season? You can take on some exposure. Someone like Logano could be a fun lottery ticket, where maybe if you have a Bell and a Larson and a Reddick and you're holding all these tickets, and it's like, at some point you had the reward has to be there. You can't bet 12 guys to win the championship and then no matter who wins you lose money. Like, there's no point in doing that.
Yeah, so because I do have championship tickets on Denny, Reddick, Larson, and Christopher Bell right now, I feel pretty safe in at least one of those guys getting there and possibly winning the championship. So I'm being a little more selective with the numbers that I'm going back to the well with. But out of these guys, I gotta say the Martin Truex Jr. number at 16-1, it's the most intriguing spot for me to bet him on a championship future right now, because he comes into this week, next week, already odds being dropped. He's the race favorite for the Cookout 400. He was possibly the best car here in the spring when Denny Hamlin jumped the start, and we had that whole issue about restart zones and blah, blah, blah. And he's currently sits 7th in the regular season standings and 10th in the playoff standings, all without winning a race yet. Yeah. So if he somehow wins this race in Richmond at plus 450 or plus 500, where he is right now in the odds, these championship future numbers are dropping to 10-1, 9-1, because now with that win in the bank and extra playoff points, like, he's going to jump the regular season standings to 4th, 3rd, whatever it may be. And then he's going to be in a much better position to advance without necessarily having to be in a great car in the playoffs in the early rounds. And then once we looked at it, once we get to that semifinal stage where it's Las Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville, like, those are all places that outside of Homestead, really, those are places that Martin can be really good at. And then when we get to Phoenix, Toyota was incredible there in the spring. So he's got a legit shot to win if he can somehow snag this victory here in Richmond this week. And then this number will be completely gone. So right now, it's really the only one that I'm looking to add.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, as long as 16-1 is really nice, I think if you can get 14 or 16, it's a nice fire for sure. I have so many questions about that team, and obviously this is Martin's last year. His crew chief makes some interesting decisions week to week. The consistency over the long haul. I am a little worried that even if he can get there, that he, obviously if he gets there and you have a 14-1 ticket, you're gonna be loving life. But I don't know. It gives me a little uneasiness. I think I'd rather lay a little more and go get a Blaney, Byron, or even Tyler Reddick, honestly, and hope they can make it through that gauntlet.
Well, yeah, like, obviously I said the Tyler Reddick championship future right now is still my favorite on the board, but in terms of like possibility of hitting. But if you like Truex to win this weekend in Richmond, I say you split whatever unit you were going to allocate for that and bet a little on his championship number as well, because that number will be completely gone and cut in half probably if he does get that victory.
Do you have any interest in the RFK guys? I know we bet Buescher last year. He ended up having a good Phoenix race, but never really was in the contention to kind of make it there in the playoff 4. They both had nice Phoenix finishes in the spring, but they were very much luck of cautions and kind of gaining track position and then luck boxing their way into kind of holding that area. Obviously they're both, priced, 25 and then 40.
Yeah.
like it's, once again, you could throw, it's more of a lottery ticket at that point, but is there anything there, or would are you interested in Ty Gibbs or Ross Chastain? Those are all, pretty long numbers and we saw what Chastain was able to do at Phoenix last year, obviously as a non-playoff driver to kind of dominate the race the way he did. Do you have interest, or is it kind of like yeah, I'm all set. I'm going to stay at the top of the board and not worry about it?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation to be had on a guy like Brad Keselowski, who has, he's kind of shown up the last month or so to where he's been a top 5 contender, but a lot of that has to do with him manufacturing track position and, just finding cautions at the right time, putting himself in really good position. And he's currently safely in the playoffs. Now, his teammate Chris Buescher, when you look at those numbers, 40-1, they look extremely enticing based off what he did last year. And, we're going to a couple of tracks here upcoming where he should be really good at: Michigan, Daytona, and then you start the playoffs with another super speedway. But like, again, there's a possibility that Buescher doesn't even make it into the playoff race. And so I can't really get down on a number before I know that he's even in there, when you can just bet him outright at Michigan or Daytona. And then even if he does get in the playoffs, I'm just going to bet him at Atlanta at 10-1. And I'd rather do that because that's much safer than expect him to compete in Phoenix against guys who are.
Yeah, I'd rather. I'm with you. I'd rather bet him in Atlanta or bet him at Daytona or bet him at Talladega at 8 or 10-1 than to bet him even at 40.
Yeah,
when he has to beat Larson and beat all those other guys. I'm also looking at the standings. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that both Daniel Suarez and Austin Cindric are both locked in. But like, of the names kind of on the outside looking in, like Bubba Wallace is the only name that I'm like, I think he makes, like, there's a good argument that he should be a playoff driver. But like the rest of these guys, like, their back markers pretty consistently, and obviously could Briscoe or Gilliland or McDowell or something win a race and make the playoffs? Potentially. But I mean, this group feels pretty safe, and if you, like you mentioned with Truex, like, he's a plus 108 points north. Like, he is the favorite this week. If you think he can get to Phoenix and have a real shot, betting his number is probably one of the best ones you could jump on.
Yeah, and of the guys with longer shot odds, I mean, this is going to sound disgusting, but Austin Cindric already has a win. He's 75-1 at Caesars. Hold on, just hear me out here. We have 2 super speedway races in the next five events.
Yeah.
When you factor in the end of the regular season and the beginning of the playoffs. If you were to tell me that Austin Cindric wins at either Daytona again or at Atlanta, I would not call you crazy. So there is a legit world where this guy can advance through the playoffs simply by winning at these super speedways and then somehow lucking his way into a championship race. To me, this is like the Chase Briscoe 50-1 number that we had.
Yeah, but like, can we bet him in round 8, or can we bet him like is there going to be a spot in either round 12 or round 8 where we can bet him at 150 instead of what he's at right now?
So the reason why I would bet it now, if it's something like if you have a little bit of change to throw on this, is because outside of complete chaos happening the next 4 weeks, and we have like 3 new winners to where they like steal playoff positions.
Yeah.
He's going to make it into the next round. And there's a legit possibility that he wins one more time before the end of the playoffs with us going to another super speedway.
I mean, that's a weird way to say legit possibility, but
the thing is
there's an outside chance.
Well, yeah, and then also too, like, when we begin the playoffs at Atlanta, it's known throughout the community. Like, Penske is amazing at super speedway races, and Austin Cindric is really good.
Yeah,
on super speedway,
and he's known for road course racing, even though we really haven't seen that. The one thing I will say is, for some of these jabronis that we're talking about right now, shop the number, because like Chris Buescher is 40 at Caesars, but then he's 25
Yeah,
at
that's gross.
FanDuel. So don't bet 25 and you can bet 40. Also, if you really want to dive into the Austin Cindric pile, BetMGM currently has him at 150 and he has him 25 to 1 to make the final four. So,
I would just bet his championship number, honestly.
I'd rather bet 25 to 1 to make the final four because I don't think he can beat everybody in Phoenix. And if
The
you
thing
want to
though,
take,
yeah, but hold on. Penske has won the championship 2 years in a row at Phoenix. They've had
is
the best
Austin
car.
Cindric really going to make it 3 years in a row?
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. You don't
So
think
go.
that Penske would give him whatever chassis and whatever motor, whatever car they've used and setup that they've used the last 2 years to win the championship race? You bet your ass they would put him in the ride of his life for that
Yeah.
race.
So take $10, put $7 on 25 to 1, and then put
And then 3
$3
on
on
the 150.
150.
See, I like that.
What a world. We're telling people to bet Austin Cindric to win the championship. What a dumb conversation.
I was just gonna say we have
uh,
gone off the deep end here for sure.
but yeah, I mean it's fun to take some shots. So
But
with
I
that,
mean, realistically though, like him winning one of the next 2 super speedway races is not out of the question.
no, it really isn't. All right. So with that being said, Brian, I have set up. I'll show it really quick just so people can see what we're doing, and then I'm gonna leave the odds up. So Brian and I are gonna do a draft because fantasy football season. Who doesn't love doing a draft? We did a randomizer. Brian gets first pick. So we're gonna have our team down here. Actually, I'm gonna need to make. I'll adjust this. But we'll have the championship odds, and then we'll have the champ four odds. So we'll put $100 on each driver to win the championship. We'll also put $100 on them to win the final four, and then whoever wins the most money at the end of the NASCAR season, we'll figure out some sort of punishment. But it's gonna be a little. So rather than just going down the board and Brian being like Kyle Larson and then me being like Christopher Bell and Brian being like Denny Hamlin, we wanted to make it a little more of a challenge. So you actually have to like put some thought into it. So you're not just picking the favorites. Obviously, you could do that. And then I have BetMGM, I have FanDuel, and I have Caesars up. So we can look at the champ odds, and then they all have champ four odds. So we can put that in after the fact. Brian Twining, I can just start typing it now if you want, but you have the first pick, and we'll do the snake draft. You have first pick round one. I know where you're going, so just tell me why you're putting Tyler Reddick as your first pick.
Again, the best championship value on the board currently is none other than the 45 car, Tyler Reddick. He has been incredible this season. The fact that he is priced longer than Chase Elliott blows my effing mind. So give me that 14 to 1 number over on FanDuel. I've personally have a large sum of money on this to help back my other championship futures with Larson, Denny, and Christopher Bell. So yeah, Reddick to me is the best number currently available.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have two picks, so I'm excited to see how I want to play this. Do I want to get kind of chalky so I can lock in a potential winner, or do I want to get a little off the board and try and grab somebody who may be of value?
And now, are we doing this based on winnings?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you get money for making the championship four, and then you get money for winning the championship.
Okay.
So, and then whoever has the most in their pot at the end, and we'll just do $100 per bet, just to make the math easy.
Yep. I mean,
all right, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a chalky answer first.
Oh.
And then I'm trying to figure out how off the board I want to get with my second one. All right, I'm gonna do Kyle Larson at plus 450, and I'm
Don't
gonna
hate
take
it.
Ryan Blaney at 9-1.
Ooh, I like it.
I think those are quite possibly two of the four drivers. I think there is some other drivers that if I was just in a vacuum picking, I would pick over Blaney. But at his current number, I think he's closer to that top four, especially given what we've seen lately. I need him to make it through the gauntlet, but we've seen how good he can be at Vegas, at Homestead, obviously good on super speedways. And then I think Kyle Larson's just the best driver, so I will latch my wagon to him and hope he can get me to the promised land.
All right, I already know my my two
Let me see
snakes.
if I can guess it. I think I can figure it out. One of the two is
Let's
Martin
hear it.
Truex.
Nope.
No? Okay.
So
Denny Hamlin.
I'm gonna go to the top of the board and I'm gonna take Denny.
Yeah, I mean, but so I guess for me, Denny Hamlin is
At the FanDuel number though, the plus 450. I don't want any
of
part
the
of that
numbers
75 garbage.
um of the numbers that stand out. He's so like do you think he can go to Phoenix and do enough to win?
Yeah, like he is so determined to win the championship this year. And
Your
if
point.
you go back to what we saw in the spring, Toyota was the best car that race. Now, we've seen it in the past where the spring race doesn't translate to the fall because track conditions change and then teams have an entire season essentially to make adjustments to their cars and all that type of stuff to figure out what setup they have to bring to the table. And so, obviously the field is going to kind of mesh back up towards the front when you got guys like Larson and HMS actually struggled here in the spring. So, I don't think that's going to be the case in the fall, but still, like Denny Hamlin is that of the handful of guys that can win the championship, he's up at the top, near the top.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, so I'm looking at last year where 2023, Bell was second in true performance rankings, Reddick was third, then Hamlin was seventh. And then you go to the championship race. Ross wins. Buescher, Blaney, Harvick, Byron, Truex is the first like Toyota. And then it's Hamlin way down at eighth.
Yeah, but he didn't give a when like he wasn't in the championship for, so why would he even care?
True.
Yeah, so I don't read too much into the championship race when I'm looking
Yeah.
at that
Plus,
stuff.
it's
But
good to lock in some of those guys that you think can be in the final four and just at least give yourself some cash. I guess what with your second pick, where are you going? That's my question.
well,
Any-
I mean, not to be chalky or anything, but if you're gonna give me William Byron at plus 850,
oh,
I'm gonna take that.
interesting. Do you? He's a weird one right now because he was so good for that beginning like 2 months of the season, and then he's been kind of a ghost. I know he did this last year, but it feels different this year. It doesn't feel like they're coming to the track with poor cars, just kind of not really, doing what they need to do. It feels like they have good cars coming to the track and they're just not finishing or they're having accidents. You think they're getting all the kinks out now and they'll have it all figured out by the time we get to Phoenix?
Yeah, I think the track record says enough about this team to where
Yeah.
you can expect them to kind of get things figured out as we get closer to the playoffs or as we advance through the playoffs. And I mean, they got 3 wins on the year, and I don't care if that's early, middle, end. Like you don't get 3 victories in a Cup Series season without being a good team. Like they're going to figure some stuff out.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Did you get tired of looking at our faces?
Oh, I don't even know how I did that. I must have hit a button or something. I'm gonna do kind of what I did with the first one. I'm gonna take Christopher Bell. I think he is gonna win the championship this year.
Woo!
Locked him in at a much better number. Obviously, was dominant here in the spring, as we've talked about. That doesn't always carry over, but he's just so damn good at these shorter flatters. At I could see him winning. He's shown the ability to win when he has to in the playoffs. This will be his third year if he gets to the Final Four in Phoenix with a chance to win it. So he's got some experience. We've talked about how strong the Toyotas have been. I know I'm not getting the best of the number at this point of the year, but I want him in my Final Four, so I'm drafting him here. The question is, how aggressive do I want to get? And obviously, you're going to get the last pick, so I'm not going to really worry about I can pick whoever. But the names that I'm considering, Chase Elliott at 10-1, I think just because of the Hendrick factor. Once we get there, has a really good shot. Is pretty comfortably locked in. Let's actually look at the. I think if I go back one, yeah,
I think he's like 5th or something.
He's playoff picture. No, I don't want to click on that. Thank you. Playoff picture. What the fuck is going on?
And usually
I'm struggling with technology. There we go. He's 6th right now. Alex Bowman's pretty high for given where he is right now, but Alex Bowman making it there, that seems.
Yeah. Like just a quick question: who would you rather have on a championship future, Alex Bowman or Joey Logano?
Joey Logano.
Yeah, and
they're both locked in at basically the same spot. And Logano could easily win another race and jump him,
which I would be very happy about, by the way, because I'm still sitting on that over 1.5 wins for the season.
Yep. Yeah, and Bowman's like 30. I think might be able to get better from 25, 22. So 30 is pretty good. Ross is interesting. We've seen how good he can be when he gets there, but
just give me Ross on single race outright bets right now.
40-1. Plus he gets 7-1 to make the championship 4, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take him. Joseph Logano, welcome to the squad. I don't know if 2 Penske cars can make the championship 4, but I think his odds of making the championship 4 are better than 20-1. So I will take the 20-1. I will also take that plus 350 to make the Final Four, and then hope he can either do well at Homestead and Vegas and some of the tracks where we've seen him do well, and find a way to get to Phoenix with a shot, and that's all I need.
All right, well, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and Truex is gonna be Mr. Irrelevant here. 16-1 over at Caesars. The dude he's on the precipice, I believe it's how you pronounce it. Of winning in Richmond. The guy's the favorite for this upcoming race. If he wins that race, not only are these odds cut in half, but his chances of advancing throughout the playoffs are dramatically improved by the fact that he's going to jump a bunch of guys in the playoff point standings as well.
So we'll check in on these as the playoffs advance, and we'll after every playoff. So we'll check in after the round of 16, after the round of 12, before we get to the round of 4, and then obviously in Phoenix. So Brian's team: Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Martin Truex. My team is Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Joey Logano. I think we have bets on a lot of these guys to actually win. And then my championship 4 from before the season, I bet Logano at 225. I bet Reddick at 325 and Gibbs at 475.
I only
You
had
bet
2.
Logano and Chastain. So we some of our thoughts have changed as the seasons went along. We also have a lot of our guys were feeling good about. So interesting rundown. Any other championship thoughts you want to look at? Anybody else that maybe you don't think they can actually win the championship, but if they found a way to get to like the final four, it wouldn't shock you.
Ty Gibbs.
Keselowski, a Logano, a Bowman, a Gibbs.
I was just gonna say because Gibbs has, I don't want to say consistently shown up with speed at tracks, because on Sundays sometimes it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. But as the season progresses, he's only going to improve on what is already a tremendous year. And if he can somehow get a victory here in these last 4 races before the playoffs start, that confidence level that he'd have going into that stretch would be an amazing boost to him and that team. And he is really fast. And so it would not surprise me if this guy somehow makes a run and is like 2 years ago, Christopher Bell, where he's winning to get in, or he reaches the final 4 and nobody had expected it.
Would you rather bet 650 to make the final 4, and then if he gets there, roll that over into a championship future at maybe 5 or 6? Or would you rather just bet 35 and see what happens?
I mean, honestly, so I have a little bit on it at 25 from the beginning of the year. So trying to not have that affect my opinion on this, but I would almost rather just bet him to win the championship and then use that as leverage in like driver matchups or placements ahead of the final 4, because his path there is much more difficult. And so even taking that plus 650 to get there is a little bit of a stretch for me.
Just find races to take him as a 12-1 favorite and hope he gets in. Yeah, I don't hate that. Any other playoff thoughts before we jump in and take a quick look at Richmond before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm expecting a great playoffs this year. I mean, people can poo-poo the playoff system all they want. I wish they would make the championship round also like a 3-race thing as well, just because having one race in a sport where guys can wreck or cars can have issues, I think is kind of ridiculous. But that being said, I think it's great for the sport. I'm excited for it. I mean, gosh forbid Kyle Larson wrecks at Atlanta and he's the first guy. He gets a DFL and then he's really struggling. So yeah, I'm excited for it. These next 4 weeks are going to be incredible. I cannot wait to hopefully win more money, and then
yeah, let's cash some tickets. Let's talk Cookout 400 as we look at the quick outright odds before we get out of here. So Denny Hamlin is now the favorite. Truex right behind him. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Blaney all inside 10-1. And then we have Logano, Elliott, Reddick, Buescher, Byron, Keselowski. Gibbs is kind of in that 10 between 10 and 20. And then we dive into longer shots. So I guess at the top of the board, anyone jumping out, obviously we talked about Truex and how we were, almost more interested in betting him to win the championship than we are to betting him this week. But are you interested in betting anyone at the top of the board?
No, I'm not betting anyone 5. There's 4 guys at 5-1 or shorter, and we're still 2 weeks out, and we haven't seen them come back to the track, because all of this is being based on what happened in the spring, and we know the track's going to be different. It's going to be much hotter. Guys are going to have made adjustments. Guys are going to practice and qualify different. So yeah, I have no interest in getting to the top of the board. The only number that I have bet, it's a little bit further down, but I added him to my championship card. William Byron. You can get him at 15-1 at Caesars. I got him at 16 over on our favorite offshore. So that to me is wild that he is priced so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to find the best number. It seems like
I don't think FanDuel has race odds.
It seems like 15 is the best number we can get.
Unless you have the offshore.
Right, yeah. So I think for For show purposes, I'm going to join you on the Byron.
16 at BetMGM.
Okay. I have 14.
Or not BetMGM. Sorry, Bet365. My apologies.
Oh, yeah. Shouts to 365.
And yeah, to my point, real quick on the Martin Truex Jr. thing, like, would you? I mean, the guy's 5-1. He hasn't won a race yet, and so I don't want to bet that number that's that short. So I'd rather just hit that 16-1 championship number because again, if he does win this race, which he is the favorite for, that number is cut to 10 at minimum.
Are you betting Tyler Reddick 16?
Oh, that's for this race?
Yeah.
Well, I said it. I'm doing it until I run out of money. So that's basically what's happening here, folks. It's gotten to the point now where even Wormy gives me shit because he knows like anything that comes out of my mouth about Tyler Reddick is utter shit now. So just ignore me trying.
Yeah, I even got looped into that nonsense. Like I know I jump on some of these bets with you, but I'm not the Reddick stan that you are.
Look, this happened to me with freaking Ryan Blaney last year where I finally got off the train and he winds up winning.
Yeah.
So I'm not stopping betting Tyler Reddick.
I'm just wondering if I should bet Gibbs just to prove a point or if I should stay away.
Why would you bet Gibbs, though?
Because he's going to win before Tyler Reddick.
Oh, no. Gosh, if that freaking happens, man, that'd be the biggest BS ever.
Let's see.
I mean, you can get Gibbs at 20 on our offshore, so I don't know if you're interested. That's a pretty decent number.
Chase Elliott's kind of interesting.
Yeah, obviously. But the dude, he just hasn't won. Like he's got that one win, but and look, I want Elliott to win as much as anybody because I'm still sitting on 1.5 wins for the season too. So like obviously the 3 guys that I need to get a win here before the end of the entire year, playoffs included, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, and Joey Logano. I need one more win from all of them.
I need 2.
Oh yeah,
I thought I went over what 2.5. 1. I went over.
Yeah. So you need 2 wins by Chase.
Yeah. Any interest in Blaney?
Not at 9. Because when you look at the odds board, the way that it's priced, how much longer can guys like Hamlin, Larson, Truex, and Bell get? Say they qualify 12th. What are they going to go to 7? Blaney's going to move maybe a point. He's going to go to 8 or 7.5. Wouldn't you much rather wait on Blaney to show up with speed and bet him at 7 than bet him at 9 and then see that Penske, shat the bed over the 2-week break or 3-week break?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's interesting because Denny was awesome at at shorter tracks. Obviously has the 1 win, but his true performance ranking has him in top 5 in all the tracks except for Iowa where he stunk. But that's really
that was a new track. You can't consider that, I don't think.
Yeah, it's just interesting. What about Josh Berry?
So that's really funny you say that because he was actually somebody that I looked at. The problem with him, though, is I know they've been qualifying better, but I just wonder when are we going to start seeing the drop-off from the guys who are transitioning teams or, in SHR's case, they're completely disbanding and guys are having to find new jobs. Like I know that particular camp, the 4 team, has said they're all in to the end of the season. But, human nature is going to have to set in with these guys starting to look forward to what's coming next year at some point. It's the same reason why, to me, Michael McDowell, I don't want to say he's a complete fade at this moment, but if I
but I think that team is shown a lot more like.
Oh yeah, they're all in on Gilligang now. The 38 is the primary car for FRM. So to me, the 34 is somebody I'm looking to fade in matchups and not really looking to bet as we move towards the end of the season here.
I'm going to add Josh Berry at BetMGM where I can get 30. There's 22 in market. I have no interest in that. When I can bet Byron at 16, but I'm gonna add a little nibble at 30-1 on Josh Berry. It probably doesn't work out, but that's okay.
Wow, he's 22. That's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy
I
low.
mean, just to let you know, he's 40 at our offshore.
Oh, well, maybe I will take a look at that. Brian, anyone else you're considering? Anyone else at this point you want to make sure gets on the card, or you're like, or is it more of a wait and see with the rest of the field?
Yeah, I kind of want to wait and see what's gonna happen during practice and qualifying. Maybe hear some driver interviews coming out of the break and all that. Get their mindset, like, because I mean, this is a lot of time for teams to regroup, look at stuff that wasn't going right or what was going right, and re-rack their minds for what's coming. So yeah, I think it's a good wait and see week for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting too with a lot of the guys that are really good at like sim driving, like William Byron, who likes to be on the sim, whether how many hours they put in on that for this week, versus the guys that are just like, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and kind of clear my head and all that stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. It was fun to get back. It was fun to talk cars. We'll obviously be back with our normal routine starting next week. So no show this weekend, but we'll be back next Wednesday to preview Richmond completely, as well as in your feed Sunday morning to talk DraftKings, final bets. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the Substack. It's completely free, but you get our full card there. You get all of our information. You get everything you need for race day. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you next time.